medium, but just imagine that we're all giving you a warm round of applause and welcoming you. Yeah, the icons go up. That's great. And I think I will turn it over to Julia now to sort of take it from here.
All right, well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. So in my travels to Earth, well, the reason I came to Earth is I felt that humans have the potential to evolve into higher life forms, despite the many difficulties they face, especially now. So I've assumed the many forms and responsibilities of humans, especially in the creative realm, to particularly understand what challenges they face. So today I'll be telling you about a body of work I created in my explorations, and I'm going to share my screen in a second. Okay, so yes, that's me. Oops. So kind of what I've been doing is broadly creating empathetic events, experiences, and objects, and I'll get into all of what that means as this presentation goes on. And I'm looking to the side because that's where my screen is that I'm presenting. Actually, hold on, let me. Reshare. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Okay, so I'm gonna show you documentation of the performance The Oracle, which I began in 2018. And basically, I wanted to create an interactive scenario where, hold on. I want to create an interactive scenario where people can communicate via a very simple device, but still have really meaningful interactions. So I'm going to show you that video now. Can anybody hear the sound?
Yes.
Yes, okay. This is interactive performance art, which means that the artwork is the interaction between the people participating. So if there wasn't an interaction, the artwork wouldn't exist. A long time ago, I was telling fortunes out of a refrigerator box. I decided that I want to train other people to be oracles because it's a really meaningful experience. And I got some grant money through the city of Raleigh, and I was able to really expand this project and get nicer oracle machine boxes made.
I wanted to talk to an oracle to be seen and unseen.
It's almost like a confessional, but tighter. It also just keeps you focused on the conversation.
Not having to worry about looking somebody in the eye, facial expressions, doing a weird smirk or something like that made it a lot easier.
It kind of reminded me of like the childhood game of like putting it up to your ear and with the can and the string, but it was still a level of connectivity that I enjoyed.
We all think that we give good advice, right? We think we all know like, oh, this person just did this, they would be so happy.
I usually approach answering people's questions with another line of questioning to get a better sense of like what they really want to know.
I think that most people already know the answers to their questions.
Because it's something that I think I was already thinking, and the universe redirected it back to me.
My mission is to fight oppression like racism or transphobia and other things that make life difficult for people by creating moments of connection between individuals and strangers.
And when you're in the box, you really have no other obligation except to listen to this person who's across from you.
You have to be good at giving advice. You have to be really non-judgmental and non-bigoted. You have to be able to wear a box on your head. I hope that they will get some kind of relief from connecting to another person, and I hope their perception of what kind of art can be will be expanded. Okay. Let's see. So that was the beginning kind of these interactions with this Oracle premise. And that was in 2019. That was part of the Seek Festival in Dix Park, and it was a public art initiative on the part of the city of Raleigh. And I wanted to keep up with this theme, and I actually built a spaceship, kind of mimicking humans' ideas of like where I might come from, even though it's really nothing like it actually is. But anyway, that didn't work out because of the COVID pandemic. So then I converted my performance completely to Zoom, which I'm going to play for you now.
Hey, Julia, is there any way for you to share the slideshow so that it's full screen from the beginning?
Yeah, I just keep having to get out of the slideshow because my files
Oh, okay.
are
No
separate
worries.
video files. I didn't want to play it from YouTube because there's lag when you play from YouTube on Zoom, so I have to keep getting out of the slideshow.
No worries. Thanks.
Oops.
Hello, my name is Julia Caston. I am intergalactic royalty and a human oracle liaison. Oracles from outer space got in touch with humans via Zoom because they heard that humanity was having a hard time in the midst of a global pandemic and widespread.
Oh, sorry. Can you not see that?
Oracles want to help humans with their questions because they believe humans can develop into higher life.
Sorry, I have too many windows.
Also, oracles are bilingual and speak Spanish.
Well, if we can see it, it's fine.
Sorry?
Open a space for listening.
We can see it.
Oh, you can? I'm sorry. I'm going to play from the beginning. I like a lot of windows open, so I think I'm going to restart. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Julia Caston. I am intergalactic royalty and a human oracle liaison. Oracles from outer space got in touch with humans via Zoom because they heard that humanity was having a hard time in the midst of a global pandemic and widespread social unrest. Oracles want to help humans with their questions because they believe humans can develop into higher life forms. Also, oracles are bilingual and speak Spanish.
We have contacted humanity so that we can open a space for listening and to hold space for that person to share freely with us whatever experience or challenge they're facing.
We hope our presence here on Earth provides some comfort to humans during these very difficult times on their planet.
The core feeling on almost all of these questions is whether they are doing the right thing and how do they know if they're doing the right thing.
My favorite part about helping humans is that we can help them evolve into higher beings, help them be more affectionate, help them be more caring, help them be more loving with each other.
My name is Larson Husby, and I'm in Chicago, Illinois. I decided to speak to an oracle because I have been largely by myself since the pandemic started in March. The oracle was helpful because they listened, and they clearly listened with a great deal of empathy. I recommend it because it's just such a unique experience to be able to meet a complete stranger and ask them something that you actually really care about. So, yeah.
Thank you, Human Larson. So on behalf of the oracles and all enlightened intergalactic beings, I would like to invite you to speak to us in the future when we make contact with Earth again.
So that, okay, now that was kind of like, that was a way to experiment with this format of Zoom, and a way I really tried to adapt my practice to the pandemic and use the tools that were available to me that we were already using. So this is kind of an example of empathetic events, because I'm attempting to create a connection between people for them to gain some relief and empathize with each other. In terms of empathetic experiences, I have another initiative that I've started just very recently called the Self-Care Institute, or Self-Care for Activists, and I'm gonna play you a video about that now.
Hi, my name is Julia Caston, and I'm very excited to tell you about an initiative called Self-Care for Activists. I partnered with Albie, an amazing art therapist, and decided to offer a pilot session of free art therapy to Black, Indigenous, and people of color activists.
Hi, I'm Albie G. McWady, and I am a practicing art therapist, and really happy that Julia tapped me to help facilitate this group with her. And I was really happy with the outcome of the pilot session and can't wait to do more sessions moving forward.
My name is Maria Lopez, and I found out about the therapy session because I am Julia's co-worker. You know, I realized that I was neglecting to heal myself and to make time for myself. So this is something that I'm really looking forward to continuing to do.
I'm really glad that I participated because it was rewarding to connect with other people who were feeling similar stresses and challenges, and to be able to share that in a space that felt really welcoming and comforting. We can't effectively perform that activism in a continuously healthy way if we're also not simultaneously taking care of ourselves.
I decided to do this workshop because I believe that art therapy can be very useful to help people process what they're going through. And one thing I did get out of this workshop was the ability to connect with people who have different professions but still have the same drive to make change in this world in a positive manner. Self-care is often not emphasized in activist circles. Oftentimes there's an emphasis on just doing more because the seems to be working nonstop to promote their ideas. But I think that taking care of oneself is an important act of resistance, and that this was a way and a form of self-care.
In learning more about humans, I'm very interested in activism and in the humans who are trying to kind of better the situation for like fellow humankind. So this interest is combined with my interest in kind of the healing and transformative power of art, which is why I partnered with Albie, the art therapist who spoke in this video for this pilot workshop and what will hopefully be a series of workshops. So moving on, I've covered kind of my idea of empathetic events and empathetic experiences. I kind of really think of my drawing practice as creating empathetic objects. Well, first because it's kind of how I take care of myself and find rest and rejuvenation. And I believe having empathy towards oneself is really important. So my exhibition at UNCG, in addition to featuring the videos I showed you, and there will be a performance of the Oracles from Outer Space and an art therapy workshop, but it also features a lot of my drawing work, including this 30-foot scroll shown here, which I completed over a series of 4 months from January through April of this year. And it also features other works. For instance, this is a drawing of my cat roommate that I get to live with, another enlightened being. This is a drawing I made earlier because I had a friend who was designing clothing, and she said she wanted to make tops for career women. And so this phrase of career top really stuck with me. So these are like the career women, and they don't have a top, which is why they're hiding behind bushes. And then this is a theory I had in observing humans. There's a lot of issues between relations between, well, there's a lot of binary gender ideas, but there's also a lot of issues between what, like happens to be kind of between these binary genders, a lot of opposition, and especially the fact that women tend to be disadvantaged, whether it's in terms of their reproductive rights or just all sorts of things because of sexism. So I came up with a theory that if men molted their skin once a month, it would effectively balance out the level of hardships experienced on a whole in order to make this the male and female genders, or at least the binary genders, equal. And then this comes back to my other work about kind of self-care and using art as a form of rejuvenation. So I created this scroll specifically because I wanted to include it in this exhibition. And over those past 4 months, it was kind of almost a running diary of whatever I was thinking and observing. So this section, and it's 30 feet and it's 15 sections, and it's the biggest drawing I have ever made. So this is illustration of catitis, which is an illness where cats are running through your veins. This is going to the dentist. Oh, around January, I had to move and figure out where, or not around January, but I was thinking of moving, and I moved locations in March where I was living. So I was thinking about where I would live, and I was specifically thinking about worms because during the rain, they often get washed up far away from where they originally were, and they need to figure out where to live. Also, if a kitty was human, they would have flesh folds and pubic hair. I dreamt that I was flying over a large field of very flat snakes, and I was afraid they would eat me, and I kept landing in these areas in between the snakes, kind of like hopscotch. These are naked mole rats. I don't remember why I made these naked mole rats, but I remember I felt like a lot of anger towards an event or an argument, so I made these animals in this labyrinth to express my feelings of frustration. Something that I'm really excited about that I got to do in collaboration with Barbara Campbell Thomas's, I think it's called Variables in Drawing. I forget what the class is called, but we basically did a collaboration where they provided me with words and images that they found meaningful, and I would make a coloring page for them and they would finish the page. And in fact, some of them made coloring pages for me. This is a page that Abigail Dyer made for me based on a photo of my cat roommate, and I colored it in. This is a coloring page I made for Allie Whitman, and in the information she provided to me, she said that she really likes nature imagery, and she provided 5 different photos of her cat. So I decided to make kind of, you know, her cat part of this nautical landscape and the sun to combine her 2 interests. Amber really loves her dog and cows. Bethany said that she likes creepy things, dinosaurs, and outer space. So this was actually a very simple coloring page, but she made all these like incredible patterns in the backgrounds, and she turned this into a donut, this planet, and added shading. And I think she used acrylic paint. In all of these coloring pages, the students used a variety of lots of different painting and drawing media, which kind of made, it was pretty wild, the results. They're actually just really great examples of collaborative drawing and painting. Oh, Dorian Leto made this coloring page for me, and I colored it in. That's me and like, I guess this cat man. Oops. Oh, also this is another collaboration with Dorian where I created these eyeball flowers for him, but he added these green things in the background. And what you can't tell from this documentation of this image is that everything is sparkly. Jessica actually was making lots of coloring pages for other people during the pandemic. So she sent me examples of some of the pages she was making for people. And it was a very playful style. So in the coloring page I made for her, I attempted to channel some of that playfulness. And then she added the rainbow road for these animals. And then Mary provided me some images of succulents, and in the drawing software I was using for the coloring pages, there's actually a way to kind of kaleidoscope a pattern, which I experimented in order to make this coloring page for her, which she then filled in with these colors. Marissa sent me a mysterious picture of this pug with a sticker that said sausage on it, and this dog, which I'm assuming is her dog. So I made a comic strip for her and left the sound bubbles blanks so she could write her own kind of conversation in them. And so here you see that it's a vortex and they're saying one of us, and they're all changing colors throughout the coloring page. Oh, Rachel, I think this is Rachel's dog, but she really cares about social justice. So her dog is a superhero saving the city, and this is a protest symbol. This is kind of an amazing example of someone who completely created their own piece of art out of the coloring page. Initially, I just had the plants, the fish, and SpongeBob, but he drew this entire like background, which I think might be a submarine. That's what I think. And let's see. That is my last slide. So basically what I've done throughout this presentation is I've given an example of the different methods I use to create connections.
Julia, can you mute all the participants?
Huh?
If you go into participants, you can mute everyone.
Oh. I have to exit.
I don't like people going behind me, you know? He's like, no, you go. So I'm going, have you lost weight? And I was like,
hold on.
I was like, okay.
How do I mute everyone?
I know, that's what I thought.
You go to participants at the bottom.
Okay, I muted people.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay. So that was kind of an overview of what I've been working on over the past year or so, and the different areas I've explored in creating connections between various art forms as well as people.
Thank you so much, Julia. That was great. I think we can open it up to questions. So probably if you're interested in asking Julia a question, just unmute yourself and jump right in.
Hey, I have a question about the coloring pages. I'm curious about the flounder motif you had running through. There was a few little fish icons, and I wanted to know, like, where that came from.
Well, I was really struggling with these coloring pages because I decided to do a lot of them in a very short period of time, which was really stressful and bad planning. So I decided that I didn't have to draw everything by hand. I could get clip art from the internet, and then I realized I could get any clip art I wanted. So I inserted flounder into one of the coloring pages, but then I decided that it would be interesting if this character popped up now and then, because the coloring pages are they're mostly very idiosyncratic and a little weird. They're not normal coloring pages, so I thought it would be funny to introduce something very typical like flounder.
Thank you. I appreciate the explanation. I really liked that he was in a few different pieces.
There is a question in the chat that says, it asks you what your planet is like, and do the life forms there need art as much as humans do to soothe their souls?
So I'm not from like any distinct planet, because I don't have a corporeal body, so I don't need a terrestrial body on which to exist. I'm only assuming this form in order for you to actually be able to understand me. And I would say that because we don't assume corporeal form and we like kind of exist as consciousness, we do need art and creativity, but it's already kind of built into the fabric of our existence in a way that's really integrated.
Hi, Julia. I have a question. I'm wondering about like the Self-Care Institute and like how that's gonna evolve, and just I'd like to know more about it.
Yeah, so I got this idea about a year ago when I had another exhibition and I organized some workshops for people working with another art therapist. And I knew I wanted to have it be more targeted specifically for what I like to call change makers or activists, because I feel like people who are often dealing with activist work every day, I really admire their courage, but I feel like I want to support them somehow because who takes care of people who take care of everyone else? So that's kind of where this self-care idea came from. And I kind of put it on the back burner, but after the protests, this idea was really reignited in my mind and I came back to it. So we did a pilot session, and the idea is to have kind of a 6-month session of one workshop a month for activists, whether maybe the first series could be Black, Indigenous, people of color, a second series could be people with disabilities, or maybe another series could just be like anyone who identifies as an activist. But I thought the pilot session went really, really well and people really needed it. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I guess I was also thinking about like art students and how a lot of art students are like, I mean, this is kind of different than like the activism angle, but just how a lot of art students kind of need more self-care with this like online environment. So
yeah, I'm doing one of these
yeah.
for UNCG students later in the month with the art therapist I work with, but I could see it expanding to other places.
Yeah, thanks.
Also, if you don't feel comfortable speaking up, you can put your questions in the chat.
I have a question about your scroll. As you were going through, you said that it sort of was emblematic of ways that you felt or concepts you were thinking about. And I am curious about the symptoms of catitis.
So catitis is where you maybe you're in quarantine and you live with cats and like they're everywhere and you're always with them, and like their fur goes into your food and like everywhere that you live and breathe until like they just become part of you and are in your bloodstream.
Is that a symbiotic relationship?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
It's very bad. Very bad. Not recommended.
Okay.
And someone says, did you make my corporeal costume? No, I assembled it, but I did buy it from various places.
On Earth?
On Earth.
Okay. I'm curious about your relationship to humor and in your work and just in general.
Yeah, I think humor is a very important human concept that is pretty timeless. So I always try to imbue, I mean, some of my projects are very serious. For instance, the art therapy workshops, they're very serious and people are really working through a lot of like trauma and emotions. So that is not as humorous, but I try to imbue everything else with humor because I find that it puts people kind of off guard and lets them absorb and be part of the situation more. And I know a wise woman who's also an artist that said that if she confuses people just a little bit, their brains become open to receiving more of the information she is trying to convey.
That's really great.
Does anyone else have a question or want to say anything in the chat? Well, I guess maybe I'll ask all of you a question, which is, what have you been doing to take care of yourselves? And you can either speak up or put it in the chat.
Okay.
I did something very important for myself recently, which was I got a cat for the first time. So I'm very excited about that. And it's really nice to have a human or a non-human companion around, which coincidentally is also why I liked your Oracle project.
Yeah, and they can actually access the fourth dimension, which is common knowledge.
Yes, I have already experienced that with her. So yeah, that's my answer.
Oh, Ellen says that she has been taking piano lessons on Zoom. Whoa. It's kind of amazing what you can adapt the technology to if you put your mind to it. Anyone else? Or like maybe what type of creative thing do you specifically do as your outlet that helps you take care of yourself? Oh, Caroline has been walking her dog to fun places.
Photography.
Okay. What do you take photos of?
During the pandemic, I've been walking around Cocoa Booth Lake and taking them of the turtles and the egrets and the other birds and things like that.
Yeah, being out in nature is really important. Anne Marie says she got a kitten, and Harriet likes to rake leaves, and Jen likes to nap. Oh, somebody had a question. How could a non-artist learn to tap into their imagination as you do? I think that's a really, I feel like that's a really arbitrary distinction. I mean, there's a lot of artists who are not very creative or imaginative. That's a fact. So you do not have to be an artist to be able to tap in. I recommend with tapping into your imagination, one thing that really helps, which helps me, is kind of doing a word association exercise. If you're trying to think of a topic for a work of art, you're trying to start brainstorming and freeform writing and seeing where that leads you to. A lot of ideas just pop into my head, but I've been doing a lot of journaling lately, and that's kind of how I come to my ideas. But often it's just from having conversations with people. That's where most of my ideas come from. It's a lot easier to create something based off of input from someone else than doing it completely on your own. Valerie likes to bake, and Ivy, who's on the Teen Arts Council, and I work with her at the museum. She likes to paint and draw.
Julia, maybe as a last question, or it doesn't have to be a last question, but I know that you did sort of non-for-profit work prior to coming to grad school. So I guess like looking back on the last 4 or 5 years of your life, like where you're at with your artistic practice, is it like what you anticipated, or has it been like a really organic, like, I guess, have things changed in really organic ways and just kind of like evolved in really organic ways?
It has changed and evolved in organic ways, but you have to be aware of the fact that I can perceive and be part of multiple timelines simultaneously. So in other timelines, it's been completely different.
Okay.
And Ellen asked, what other media do you work with besides drawing? So I showed some of my performances. That's called interactive performance art. And also another media I worked in is called social practice, which basically is kind of what it sounds like, or socially engaged art. So the self-care for activists is an example of that. Okay. Does anyone feel like I have another question? Oh, I guess if you think, do you think it's possible for humans to develop into higher life forms? And what would it take? If anybody wants to try to answer that. You can also drop things in the chat if you want.
I think maybe the first step to becoming higher forms is to accept that we are animals and entirely depend on our healthy earth. And I think all the time that we're spending outside is going to help us learn from our fellow beings how fragile we are. And recently someone showed me this phenomenon of many different crustaceans and similar animals that eventually become crabs. And so maybe, you know, we could study what's happening there. Maybe first we need to turn into some sort of crab-like animal.
Yeah, like de-evolution, which is actually like a false term because that implies that crabs are lower life forms, which they're not. I mean, some could say worms are the highest life forms because of their ability to communicate directly with my life forms.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the significance of snakes and worms because they look a little bit like the portals, maybe, between communication and...
They're not really portals. It's just that snakes and worms are on like a very heightened emotional wavelength that humans can't necessarily access, which makes it very easy for us to communicate directly with them. Whereas with humans, we have to send them emails or talk to them over Zoom. Oh, Ellen says, a visit from Klaatu and Gort, reference film, the day the Earth stood still, and they brought a warning and ultimatum to Earthlings. Maybe a warning and ultimatum would be helpful. I don't know. I feel like we've had a lot of those. I don't know. Like many, many warnings and ultimatums. And does anyone else have any theories?
I know that shrimp are able to see like so many more colors than we're able to see, and that fascinates me to no end. So to go back to the crab and crustaceans, we could also go back to shrimp, I guess.
Yeah, shrimp are amazing. These are pretty good ideas, but hard to come by genetically. But I think it's possible. All right. I guess, does anyone have any final questions or thoughts?
What do you think the flat snake dream meant? Was it maybe like some sort of future insight?
I don't think so. I was really worried that the snakes had gotten squished, which is why they were flat. But then I realized that that's just how they existed, so it made me feel a lot better. And also they didn't eat me. That also made me feel a lot better. So it was more of a dream about me being worried about something that I didn't have to worry about. And Ellen says, one must walk in another's shoes. Best way to develop empathy. That's very true.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any dream practices you could communicate to us as humans that might help us with our transformation capacities?
I write down my dreams, which is really hopeful. I would definitely write down all your dreams because they can definitely be prophetic. And also just integrate mindfulness practices throughout your day. And that doesn't have to be meditation, because I know that's really difficult for a lot of people. But yeah, I find that journaling and writing down my dreams is really helpful, and just having specific times to daydream is really helpful.
Cool.
Julia, I know you wanted me to get a screenshot of you drinking your blue drink, and every time you do it, I'm like about 3 seconds too late.
Oh, that's okay.
You might have to take one more sip of it.
But it's not blue anymore.
Oh, well, it's okay.
It's almost...
There you go. Perfect.
Thank you. Jen, do you have anything? Oh, Larson asks, can you see more colors than humans, like the shrimp who can see many colors? No, because when I assume corporeal form right now, I can only see the colors that you see. But yeah, when I'm not a human, since I'm technically part of a hive mind or something that you would understand as a hive mind, I can see infinite colors. And you know, in different dimensions, colors are different too, and different. Yeah.
Do you think you'll make a series of drawings based on these questions that people have answered you or have asked you?
Maybe. Everything gets digested eventually. Somehow, and something comes out of it. I guess I would just like to add that the show at UNCG is open until the 31st, and then there's going to be an oracle performance where you can speak to the oracles and ask for advice next week. I don't know, I forget what the date is off the top of my head. Jen, do you know?
I don't know right now, because I think aren't we switching things around a little bit?
Oh yeah, the performance of the oracle stays the same, but if you follow me on Instagram or subscribe to my newsletter or follow the Gatewood Gallery on Instagram,
yep, they're soon.
You'll be able to find out about it, and I'll also send an email.
Yeah, and I highly recommend the oracle experience as well. It was fun and informative, insightful, and relaxing.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, it was wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for being with us this evening and talking to us and assuming your corporeal form so as to better communicate with us and meet us where we are in our knowledge as we strive to be enlightened beings as you are. I think we have a long way to go, but we'll work on it. And the show is really quite beautiful. I love seeing all the drawings. They're so amazing. So I would encourage everyone who's able to go through the gallery and see it in person. It's up. Typically the gallery is open Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, but sometimes given the COVID scenario that we've been under, it does close sometimes a little bit earlier. So if you're going to go, I would encourage you to get there by 4. And if you want to visit on the weekends, either I or our graduate assistant can open it for you as long as I'm given a few days heads up. I can coordinate something. So again, thank you all for being here. And thank you so much, Julia. This is really,
Yeah, it was great to meet all of you.
yeah.
All right. Have a great night.
Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Okay, so you just